Hello, welcome to month 10 of our $5 quilt club. Here I'm going to show you how to do foundation paper piecing. You guys should all know how to do this, so you don't really need a video, but we'll post one anyway. So same thing as always with foundation paper piecing. You're going to cut out your pieces. You got 3 pieces this month. This one's nice and simple. We will be doing the traditional piecing in another video, so that one will be when you cut exactly on the lines. There's a different printout for that one. So my pieces are kind of wrinkly here, but if they are wrinkly, you can always iron them. I know this is going to work just fine, so I'm just going to go with it. So I have very roughly cut enough fabric to cover all of my pieces. So this white will easily cover this square, and then this piece, you know, definitely covers that. So I've done that for all of my pieces. I'm just going to start with A1 there so that we can show you how to do that. I pinned my first fabric down, A1, and then I'm going to fold directly on that line. If you have a piece of cardstock, or if you have, you know, use a ruler, you can get a nice crease there, and then fold directly on that line. This is where you can trim with your add a quarter ruler. Or you can do that afterward. So, but obviously the most important part is to make sure that your fabric that you're putting down is larger than this folded piece right here. So you can notice that I didn't cut perfectly my shapes out because I'm going to trim it up once I get that all done. So as long as it covers that entire shape, I know that it's going to be totally fine when I go to open it up. So I'm just folding back all the edges so that I can see whether or not it would cover all 3 sides, and it does. So I am just going to set my stitch length all the way to 1.6. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch it to, or set it to 1.6, and then as long as you start way before, you know, into your seam allowance, you want to stitch this entire line all the way to your seam allowance. You won't have to backtrack, okay? So I'm just going to stitch this real quick so you can see. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to stitch directly on that line all the way across. All right, so now we have the first piece done. I can take the pin out. So now I'm going to fold that over, and you can see if you don't trim your fabric, you can see the ghosting there of that darker fabric. That does not look great. So you can just use your add a quarter, which is, you know, it's a great tool. You're going to always need it for paper piecing. Here we go. So you would just want to let the edge of that ruler sit right there and then slice it right there with your rotary cutter. But I don't have a mat right here, and that's what you would do. So you can either use scissors if you don't have an add a quarter ruler, because you definitely want to trim that so you don't see that, because that does not look great. So this is when you are going to take a hot iron and you are going to press this seam right here to make sure that you are pulling it all the way back. Because when you go to join it to your next piece, if it is not pressed really nicely, it might cause it like a little bit of a fold, and then your seams, you know, won't actually line up. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you press that really, really good. You can use a seam roller or, you know, a hot iron. Either way, you want to make sure that that is really, really flat. So for the next piece, we're going to fold directly on this line all the way across. You can eyeball it like this, use a piece of cardstock so it's perfect. The most critical part is just to make sure that when you place the fabric down, that it has enough. I think this one's going to line up. No, we're going to go this way. It has enough fabric to go on all the sides. So you can kind of see the seam allowance right through there. I don't know if you can see that as well as I can. I'm going to go ahead and tilt my fabric on here and make sure that it's covered really, really well. I'm going to fold back that so I can see that this is a 1/4 inch all the way that way. Fold this back, 1/4 inch all the way there. And then I'm going to fold it all the way here. And obviously there's a 1/4 inch there. So I'm not going to move anything. You can pin this in place if you're nervous about it moving, or you can just slide it right over to your machine. And again, remember to stitch all the way into that seam allowance. and then it is totally gonna work just fine. Okay, so now when we open this up, we can see that our entire triangle is covered by that piece. So this is, you know, very sloppy looking, and that's why you would want to use your add a quarter ruler right here. So you would make sure that's folded because you don't want to cut off what you just sewed on there. So you're going to trim that right there so that you will end up having a really nice, perfect piece here. So once all of this is pressed and trimmed, then you trim on your outside line all the way here. So this outside line, and make sure you follow these little ones too, because that will make joining your pieces really, really nice when you get the other ones done. So since this is all the same technique, I'm not going to video any more of this stitching, but that is foundation paper piecing. If you guys have any other questions, please let me know, and we're going to be happy to help.